Hello, YouTubers. Hello, fans. Welcome to Talks with Dumi. My name is Dumi, and today we're doing a very interesting episode. We're talking to the Nhlapo family. We're talking about younger pastors, lives of younger pastors. So they've graced us with their presence and their time, and let's welcome them and like them. You can find them on Facebook, and they have a ministry. They'll tell us more later. Um, Tell us about yourselves, guys. Where did you guys meet, and would you say it was love at first sight?
It was definitely love at first sight. We met at church. We were coming from the same church, and I think it was Good Friday. She was seated 3 or 4 rows in front of me, and I was in mid worship. But when she looked back, I was like, "Wow!" But I thank God that I never had the courage to approach her because I was still young. I was 13 or 14 years. I didn't know what love was. So I was probably going to mess up something good prematurely. So we only started talking many years later, 6 or 7 years later, on Facebook before we went on our first date.
Yeah, I also thank God every day that you did not try to pursue me earlier because it was definitely gonna be a mess up. Um, the fact that right now we have something special, and by then we did not know what we know now, and we did not have, we did not understand the grace of God as much as we understand it now. It was going to be a definite mess up, and here we are today.
Let's talk about transitioning from dating to married life. What has changed? How long did you date for? And yeah.
Um, I think we we started dating in 2012. That's when I asked her out on our first date.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then we dated until 2014. In August the 2nd, I proposed to her. And then we got married the following year in 2015, in October the 31st. And not much has changed from our dating to our marriage, except that now we had to take things to a different level, being married. But the love was always there from the courtship phase, and we were best friends. I think that's the one thing that has made our marriage so beautiful, is that we enjoy each other's company genuinely.
It was a beautiful courtship, I was spoiled. I was always spoiled by him. Anything that I wanted, I would get. It's always been that way. And that's one thing that attracted me to him, because, I mean, um, as a lady, you want to be, you want to know that you're going to be taken care of, wherever you're going. And if a guy comes to you and proposes to you and says, I want to be your husband, you want to know as a wife, my needs are taken care of. I am cared for, And one thing that really attracted me to him on our first date was that he got me a book, you know. So he's a guy that loves reading. He's a guy that loves knowledge and wisdom. And from that date, I was like, no, this is a definite man of God that I would love to be with. The way he treated me, he opens the door for me. As a young lady, when someone does that for you, I mean, yeah, you head over heels in love with that person. I mean, we women, we fall in love very easily. And if a guy or if a man is going to do that and commit in such a way, you are asking God already, God, please allow him to marry me. Make a way.
I think I was sure at the second date.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember. Because the first date we were going as friends, and I told her my vision and what I wanted to do with my life. And le one le yafuna ukukhala.
I did cry.
I thought mina was so lambile.
Yeah.
But when I asked her why she's being so emotional, she was like, "No, that's exactly my vision. That's what I want to do with my life." And immediately I was like, "Ah, she's the one." So on our second date, I told her straight, "Guti, sister, kumele nje just kuhlangane amasento ami kahle, but
Yeah.
you're the one. I'm definitely gonna marry you."
Let's talk about your first year of marriage experiences. How did you guys find having to live together in just your first year of marriage?
For me, my first year of marriage was a full year of honeymoon. not much responsibility. I mean, you don't have kids, you know, it's just the two of you. You cook when you want to. You're focusing on building a career, you know. And that first year of marriage, I remember I also was introduced to the ministry, you know, the ministry that he's leading. And the first few weeks of attending, it was not as easy because, I mean, I'm introduced as woman of God, you know, his wife, umamfundisi. But because you don't really know the culture, you don't really know the people, and just in Joguti, how things are, you need to take a seat back, and people perceive that as, you know, maybe she's not free, maybe she's not happy, you know. So I think that's the first challenge, but I think we tackled it very well because my husband is very patient and understanding. Yeah, financially, we were still okay. We were still living with our dad, my father-in-law, and yeah, being kotiza, you know, a very humble guy, a very humble man. I had it easy. I don't want to lie. I don't want to lie to anybody and say, oh, it was tough. No. I was still taken care of. My husband cooks, he cleans. Yeah, I had it very easy.
I think our first day was beautiful. Yes, we did have our few transitioning challenges, but they were never major. And because our values were the same, or they are the same, so it wasn't major issues that we had to transition into. And I enjoyed having you in my own home because my father was single because my mother passed away. So I always had that thing in mind that I would like you, before we move out and build our own life, to know my father personally because he's one of the most important people in my life. And the way you guys bonded and and getting to learn each other even more.
Yeah.
I mean, I remember during our courtship phase, just after we got engaged, before we got married, those were the most difficult months ever. Because now, you know, she's your wife, she's almost there, but you are waiting for that day. And so it was very hard to say goodbye. So finally, when she moved in, and now your best friend is your roommate, yay, yay.
Let's talk about the lessons that you guys learned from being married. And how long have you guys been married?
Okay. We've been married for 5 years. This year we're celebrating 5 years, 5 beautiful years of honeymoon. And we've learned a lot of lessons. And I want to be honest, we didn't have a lot of challenges in our marriage. And so a lot of people ask us those questions. What are the storms you guys went through that you can... Some of the things that we advise people on, it's not things that we had to go through in a difficult way, but that we saw that they helped us in applying them. And that was having the same values in life, coming from a similar background, which is a Christian background. But what I personally learned in marriage, being with you for 5 years, my love, was that marriage is a daily decision to choose another person before yourself. And as long as you keep doing that, you'll keep enjoying yourself in marriage. And that's what we are trying to do.
Yeah. Mina, I'd say one thing that has helped me throughout marriage is the Holy Spirit, you know, having a relationship with the Holy Spirit, because it's very easy as a person to forget the needs of others, you know, and to put yourself first. But the Holy Spirit will always remind you of what true love is and how to, you know, demonstrate that love for the other person. And yeah, I would say, Uguti, that's the main reason that I believe that we are here today, is because of the relationship that we both have with the Holy Spirit. Because Motu is something, you know. Yeah, Motu wa hlupa. Motu wa hlupa, kya hlupa, wa hlupa, hape kopani, ribatu, wabon. So, you know, the Holy Spirit has a way of saying, yeah, I deal with it in this way, you understand. And before it even hits you, you already know, you know, I'd rather kitule. right now, rather than say anything, because words are irrevocable. You can't take what you've said back. You understand? So the Holy Spirit, man, it's helped us a lot in our journey of marriage.
With so many responsibilities that you guys have, from being leaders of a church to being parents, how do you still keep your flame burning in your marriage?
Yo, I love that question. Well, we have 3 rules, in the bedroom where we sleep. No cell phones, and no TV, and no clothes. Even in winter. If it's winter, you don't put on pajamas. Rather, we add the blankets. But that's our 3 rules. They help us to maintain that connection with each other, especially in that department. But I think beyond that, even in other areas, we are genuinely best friends and we always prioritize each other. Like there's so many instances where I'll go to the shop to buy myself something and I'll end up coming back with something for her. And the same with her. And I think that prioritizing each other, it's helped us to remain in love.
True. I don't think there's anything I'm going to add on that, because it's exactly how we decided, Uti. Besides, we've also got 3 values, Uti. It's order, balance, and excellence.
Yeah.
Because we've got careers, we've got our own friends, so in everything, we decided it's going to have order,
Yeah.
Family first, prioritize, and then career, and but firstly it's God.
Yes.
Yeah, firstly it's God. But through everything else that's going on in the world, we prioritize each other, and that's how we keep it.
Tell us, how do you find being parents, and how is that transition?
It's beautiful. It's amazing.
Anne?
A lot of work. But we decided, Uguti, we need help. If we are going to have balance, if we are going to stay committed and prioritize each other, we need help. And that's when we decided, Uguti, we're going to have a week nanny as well as a weekend nanny. Because the truth is, even with ministry, we need to commit. On Sundays, bana baska the whole day, busy ka bazalwane. Babies also need to be taken care of.
Yeah, being a parent is one of the most amazing and remarkable experiences of our lives. And I think it also helped that we waited. I think we got our firstborn 3 years after marriage. And at some point, people were asking me, Ncegu, do you need any help, Ncegu? Prayers or something. And they didn't understand that we made that conscious decision with each other before we add someone else into this beautiful love story that we have. So when we got our first child, I think we were ready and we enjoyed them. And then sati putu putu gavelo munye. That's why Lobus tweak I'm like untando yenkosi kairos, which means God's will, God's time. Bashana like 2 years, ne?
2 years exactly.
2 years, yeah. But we are enjoying them. Our 2 boys, they are the best part of our day. Their smiles, their energy and personality, and it helps. So when I look at them, I just remember my beautiful love.
Let's chat about communication in marriage. What tips and thoughts, advices would you give to other younger ministers?
Concerning marriage specifically?
The importance of marriage. Of communication in your marriage.
I think it starts even before marriage.
True.
Yeah, because if you are going to base your marriage on the wrong foundation, then once you are in marriage, there are so many things where you guys will be having challenges meeting each other halfway, especially when we're talking about core values. If you guys have different faiths, different ideas of what the future holds, and you find different things fun or interesting, it means that there's going to be that clash eventually. So while you are still in the courtship phase, since we're discussing this and talking about young pastors, choose someone. For me, I call them the 3 foundations of a healthy marriage. Choose someone that you have the same faith with, that you have a similar future plan with, and that you guys have genuine fun with each other, like you enjoy each other. beyond the intimacy part, because that is for marriage. And then once you are in marriage, and you guys genuinely love each other, I think the language of love is always respect, and there's and it goes both ways. There are so many times where we genuinely have to ask each other the question, do you want to be right or do you want to be happy? And we always choose to be happy. Sometimes I'd rather be wrong, even though I know I'm right. Yeah, and be happy, and vice versa.
Okay, let's move on to your ministry. Tell us a brief background about it and your calling, and when did you discover it and how?
Sure. Do you want to start on this one?
Please start.
Oh, this is a heavy one.
Please start.
I personally, I got born again 17 years old. I was already a mess. I think if God didn't get me then, He wasn't gonna get me. I was deep in all kinds of youthful things, and when He got me fully. I committed to Him. I quit drinking and smoking and dating, and for a full 2 years, God was working on me. At the age of 19, that's when I got my call, and started preaching in trains. I'll never forget the encounter I had with God at that age. I was sleeping from studying. It was during exam time. I was doing my first year at VETS, and the voice of the Lord came to me and said I must open the book of Haggai, and read that book. When I read the book, it was speaking about a call to build the house of the Lord. And then I asked God, what does He mean? And the Lord said, this is what I'm calling you to do. Because I was fellowshipping in a classroom, submitted under a church where we were fellowshipping in a classroom, I thought that meant I need to build my fellowship or my home church a building, a place of fellowship. Because I was still young, I didn't know the Bible that well, but it turned out it was actually an apostolic call to build God's house, which is not particularly a building. And I was ordained as a youth pastor at the age of 21. I got released into ministry to start a branch at 24. And then I was ordained. We were ordained. We were ordained together. They were waiting for me to get married first. My church is strict. So we were ordained. I was 27. She was 25 as apostles officially of our church, Holy Bible Focus Church International. And then when I turned 30, which was last year, then we officially were released to start our own ministry, which is Spirit-Filled Word Tabernacle. Yeah.
So with my journey, it's always been very intimate and personal with God from a young age. And I never found it very difficult to have faith in Him as a father. I was introduced to God by my mom when I was 4 years old, and she would tell me a story. I would ask her, how, Mama? So how was I made? Where did I come from? And she would tell me, aeroplane, and then I'm Payena, and now she's my mom. And I always had that picture, my source is God, so I come from God. So, whenever I want something, I go back to God as my father, yeah. So I was raised by my my dad is not my biological father. So there was a time whereby there was a gap of a father in my life, whereby I did not have a physical father, So I would always go to God as my dad, anything that I needed, I would go to God. If my heart was in pain, I would go to God, So He's always been a father to me. When I mess up, I don't pretend to God. I can pretend to anyone else, but when I mess up, I know, I have to go to Dad, and sikhulume ngale ndaba. If I still want to mess up as a human being, I go to him. I'm like, Dad, listen, I know your word says 1, 2, 3, but inzima indaba le yabo. So He's always been real to me. God has always been real to me, and He's always been there for me. I take it as that I am His little child. He's always so gracious to me. whatever I want, when I ask for it, I get it, you know. So that's the kind of relationship that we have with God. And when it came to ministry, I was very, very relaxed, you know, because I'm the last born. You know how last borns are. They get their ways. So I was very relaxed when it came to ministry, but I always knew, Uguti, I am gifted in prayer, especially for other people, as well as counseling, you know, because older people will come to me and say, this is what's happening in my life, and I would counsel them. And after that, they'll be like, yeah, I feel much better today. Thank you so much. After I've spoken to you, I feel so much better. So that's always been my grace in ministry. And I thank God that in this season, it's been manifested. Like things are happening. People are coming back to me, especially in this season. I won't even say Uguti before how it was, because I didn't take it as serious as I'm taking it this season. So God is doing a lot in this season through my ministry, and yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Is what you perceived about ministry and marriage and parenthood what you're experiencing now?
Never. I actually perceived that it was more difficult. I've always had, Angelo Runa, we were raised by parents who were very busy, you know. They couldn't attend your netball practices. They couldn't attend this and that. So I always thought Oguti parenthood is very hard. I always thought that it's a challenge, you know, being a parent. Also, you know, with marriage as well, you know, in the context you would see when you're having an argument, how do you solve it so that the kids don't know, hori, mama and papa, they're not fine, you know, as well as that.
Because I think the older generation, I don't know how we can call them to order, but respectfully so. I think they made us fear marriage so much.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about Christian couples. Most of the time, the advice they would give you, "Begezel, mtanam, begezel," and you would always think to yourself, "Shoot is yabuya lapho,
True.
only to find that when you guys build on the right foundation. Remember, the architect and the design of marriage is God.
Yeah,
so
true.
when you base your entire marriage on God, I truly believe, Wuti, the challenges that you do face, they won't be as hectic as what other people who are just trying to do their own thing without including God will face. So I honestly, with you, I agree with you, Wuti. I thought it was going to be harder than what it is.
Yeah.
Only to find Wuti, man, there's milk, there's honey, even grapes. But you have to make sure Wuti, God is always at the center of it all.
On that note, what advice would you give to younger ministers or younger pastors or apostles, the fivefold ministry, people who are starting their own churches?
Okay. Ministry is a death sentence, and so if you don't want to die, you're going to have challenges in ministry. And I wish somebody did tell me this before ministry. Preaching on the pulpit is like less than 50% of what ministry is. There's so much more to it. I think we've learned in the short space of time that we've been in ministry that ministry is more than eloquence, relevance, substance, but it's about the heart.
True.
And for you to impact lives, it takes more than a good sermon or the right doctrine, which are good and they are necessary. But the heart is the most important thing. And yeah, my wife, you can add.
Yeah, I mean, there's a verse in the Bible where Jesus says, "Ketora, I don't know you," you know, because there are things that, I mean, I didn't know you. You understand? So it shows that ministry is an intimate relationship between you and the Holy Spirit. You understand? So you can't base ministry on what you know and wisdom, kupela. It has to be, you know, your walk with God. So I would say to prioritize your relationship with the Holy Spirit, and then everything else will flow from there.
Amen.
This question is from our viewers, and I think a lot of people wanted to know this about what pastors think is the right way for young adults to date or to courtship.
Definitely, you have to honor God with purity in your courtship, and that means no sex. And it's possible, it's doable. Most people think it's just a fictitious or a fantasy or a dream, but in reality, you are a man, I'm a woman, so it's gonna happen. But we saw the grace of God within our courtship. We were dating for 3 years, and we never went there. And mind you, I was telling you about my past. At the age of 17, I was already not a virgin. And she knew that. I told her, I've been through some things, woman of God, but the Lord has kept me. Since I got born again, I told myself I'm going to honor the Lord. And so when we met and we decided we're going to date, I told her, if we're going to date, this is one thing we are not going to do. And she agreed because I think we were on the same page as children of God. So I wish young people could understand that. Once you start tasting certain things in courtship, you are taking away a certain level of sweetness in marriage. There are some things that are supposed to be enjoyed in marriage. I can't remember umfundisi muphi bekathanda ukuthi maniqala i-honeymoon yenu nisajola nifika emshadweni sekunganahani sekusele imuni kuphela yabo ukuthi there are some things that are worth waiting for. And I remember I used to say to myself, because she's attractive, niyazibonela nana ngisho. So it was very difficult to contain myself sometimes. But I used to always say to myself, if I'm planning to spend my forever with her, then what's the rush?
Yeah.
What's the rush? Yeah, well, so by the grace of God, we're able to do that. And I think if you also involve elders within your relationship, and I'm not talking the whole thing, you're putting money on dates. I'm sorry, that's a bit extreme for me. But I'm talking just having elders who are Christian who will pray for you guys so that God gives you wisdom. And because velu Satan akaifuni intent, so he will bring challenges in your courtship so that this doesn't turn into a marriage. Because when two children of God get married, it's a powerful representation of the mystery between Christ and the church. So you do need people who are going to strengthen you in prayer, to give you advice, even when you are having challenges and you need questions to be answered and certain advices, you can go to them and say, this is what is happening. It also creates a level of accountability. So for me, I think it's those two things.
Yeah, I must say, Uguti, it was not easy, but we made it simple and easy for ourselves. For example, there were rules that we had. Uguti, when we meet, we don't meet in a home where it's comfortable, where the doors are locked, especially for the first 2 years before Anta Lobola. We always met in public places because we know what we're human, and we're vulnerable and we are attracted to each other. So we knew our weaknesses, and sometimes it's very good to know who we know. More weak. That's why when I live in because no, this once I get into here, there's a possibility, So we're not saying no and really strong and whatever, but we do acknowledge the grace of God upon our lives, and that we were responsible enough to know there's fire there, So yeah.
What would you say is the biggest myth about being a pastor, especially a young pastor, that you think is the biggest myth?
Oh, I really take this question personal because it's something that gets to me a lot. I think it's also ignorance on the part of most people who have these myths on young pastors. There are a lot of people in the world, and some are even in the church, which is shocking, who think that most ministers, especially young ministers, go into ministry because bashawe in life. I will never understand that. For some reason, you couldn't do well at school, you couldn't get a job, you couldn't succeed in business, so the next logical hustle that you could go for was ministry. And it's not the case. Yes, there are obviously those exceptions, those few people, but 90 or more percent of most ministers, these are people who had to wrestle with God. uNkulunkulu bakhiphe in marketplace ministry, bakhiphe in certain careers, in certain things that they were doing because he wanted them that badly. And for them to succumb to the call, it was a difficult struggle. So I think that's the first myth. Ukuthi uguminister because ushayekile. And it's a hassle. And then the second myth for me, it's the one yokuthi ministry is a way of making money. I also don't know where that one comes from. Because what I've seen is that ministry is a selfless sacrifice. we are the biggest givers in our ministry. And I have sat down with so many other ministers who are the same, whereby they are sacrificing. And I'm not talking finances only. I'm talking time, effort, and all these things. So you are the one who's sacrificing into this vision because you believe it's God-given. And so this isn't a hustle. Ministry is a life of death. It's a poured out life. And people must fix that. Yeah, young
What's your biggest fear as ministers, and did you once consider to quit the ministry?
Biggest fear.
I think it's not finishing well. Definitely. God has spoken to us. I mean, I've personally had a few encounters with God. That's why I never see myself turning back. And we've never even once thought of quitting ministry because we know God is real. I mean, we are beyond believing in God. We know God. It doesn't matter what evidence you bring to us. We know God is real. And so I think my biggest fear and our biggest fear
is not finishing well.
Is not finishing well.
And as well as, because I'm a PK, I've seen it with a lot of, you know, abantu abadala with their kids. They don't know how to balance. So my fear is not being able to balance. And that's why my values are now order, balance, and excellence. Our values, you know. Yeah, OBE. Because it's very hard to do career, marriage, ministry, and also give your kids the best. So I'm always asking God, oh, hey, have mercy, especially financially, because, you know, with finances, there are things that you are able, there's time that you are able to buy, you know, for your kids as well. So, yeah.
As we close, let's see how well you guys know each other. We're going to play a quiz, and let's just see how you guys know each other. So what's your spouse's favorite food? Just one answer, one word.
Chicken licken wings.
Yes, that and ribs.
So
when was your first kiss?
Second date.
No, I think it was the third. The third date. Of what? On your birthday.
On my birthday. Yeah.
It was on your birthday.
That date, yeah.
Why do you guys keep choosing each other?
Because we are fun. Because it's fun. I'm fun. And we love each other.
Are we even doing this right?
No, I don't think so.
Who's the better driver between the two of you guys?
Better?
Driver.
Oh, that's me.
No way.
Yes, that is me.
No way. I beat you last week, Footy.
That was a game. It's a game.
Yeah, but I beat you.
That's called reality, not in the game. Reality.
Okay, can I tell the viewers
he drives on
why
two
she
lanes.
thinks she's a better
He
driver?
drives on 2 lanes.
Her job took her for training for advanced driving. So she's got an advanced driving certificate in the house. But it doesn't mean she's a better driver. I'm the safer and better driver, and I've got proof.
Okay.
Bazalwane, I've got proof.
Can't debate that. But I think I'm a better driver.
Thank you so guys. So thank you so much for your time. Is there any last words you'd like to tell our viewers and what you want to share with our viewers before you close?
From me, I think with regards to marriage is a beautiful thing. And I think when you look at marriage, it was the only relationship between mankind that existed before the fall of man. So it's the only relationship that tasted what paradise is like. Brotherhood, sisterhood, parenthood, and all other forms of relationship between men took place after the fall. So marriage has got a certain grace that if you involve God in it and you guys put each other first, you can have a taste of Eden. I truly believe that. And then when it comes to ministry, I think the best advice I can give anyone, a young or old, ministry is not for someone who's alive. The best status to have in ministry is that of deceased. Rest in peace, die to self, and allow God to use you as a vessel.
From my side, as a child of God, if you decide to serve, let me let me go back, not if you decide to serve. As a child of God and as a son of God, it is a mandate for you to serve your generation.
Amen.
So do it well.
Amen.
And serve your generation with everything. A balance is very important. Whether you are at work, whether you are at church, whether you are at home, do that, what God has purposed in your life. Number two, to the young ladies, marriage is not difficult. It's not a burden, you know, only if you allow God to be the head.
Amen.
Yeah, that's my